Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week of Doppy's Tryhard Tuesdays, where we learn to try a little bit harder. I am your host, the Grand Wazoo, and sitting here with me is Count Chocula, the Grandmaster himself, the vampiro of all pyros, the spooky goblin from the Goblin Mine, and all other Halloween-themed names, the Grandmaster Flubb. How's it going, dude?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. I love that you went with Count Chocula, man. That's like, out of all the three, Count Chocula was definitely the best.
That's the one I knew I was going to lead in with, because it's just too good to waste. I wanted to be Count Chocula for Halloween. You know, I've always very much empathized with the character. He's so alone that all he has is a cereal, you know? And I can relate, I suppose. But it is a spooky Halloween here at Dot Studios. Good week in Dota, for me at least. Been playing more and less, if that makes any sense. Like, I'll play the Flubb style, 1 or 2 games, and call it quits after that and go play something else. And the quality of my games and the attitude has really shot up. So it's been a good thing for me. Got some games in with some fans and friends over the week. And yeah, it's been a good time for the Doto. No Halloween event. We're kind of going to discuss Dire Tide and its history and other such Halloween functions in Dota 2 and perhaps other games if we can get into it. But Flubb, before we get into all that, what has your week in Dota been like?
It's been actually pretty crazy. It's been like up and down in party. Like sometimes we'll have like practice nights and it's been like kind of bad, and then sometimes it's good. Actually, officially, I switched back over to 4 position, so I am now playing support again.
Where's my mid? Where's my mid invite to play mid for your team, man?
Well, Ursi wanted to take over, so you got to bring that up with him.
Oh, who's playing? Oh, so it's Fafnir and you on supports now?
Yeah, and it just seems to fit a little bit better because I mean I'm just like not a very greedy person, and I'm like so anti-greedy that it's actually kind of a problem. So I can't be mid in that scenario. It's just like actually I tweeted out about it last week. I played a bunch of games one day, and it was the day I decided, okay, I'm going back to playing support again. I'm not going to play mid. I gained 200 MMR in that one day just sitting down and playing.
Old habits die hard, I guess. You know, it's you put so much time into it that it's not like I was explaining a few episodes ago with that kind of imagining Dota as like an endless pool, and you can go any direction if you're in the middle of it for that depth. It's kind of like you went so far in one direction that to cut back would actually like you'd be a worse player because you've just so many hours in support. Those habits are ingrained into you. It's a little different with a player like me who hasn't played the game as long as you have, because it's like I could get up to my average skill with a mid in, you know, several hundred hours, whereas you getting up to your higher skill would take perhaps 1,000, you know, just because there's so much depth to each position. Not that you're not a good mid, probably far better than me, but it's like you've developed all those habits and strategies in the 4 position.
Yeah, I feel like people like you have a mind that's easier to mold in that situation because you're also I am, as much as I can be, open to criticism and open to ideas, and I always think that that's an important thing that every Dota player needs to have. But when you have that new mentality or that newer mentality, it gets you to a place where you can form different opinions and different styles quicker than I can, because I've been forming opinions and styles, and I kind of get like set in my ways sometimes about, okay, hero needs to do this in this scenario. Whereas
like sniper support and such.
Sniper support is something that I feel like no one does. I don't think anyone in like the 10 years has really done it, but it is something close to my heart.
But even those are habits you form, you know what I mean? Like, and so many people have those habits, right? That they're like, no one does this, but I've done it, and it works, oddly, because Dota is one of those games where you can do wonky shit and it works. And so to kind of like take that in mind, it's like, as a mid player, you need to have a wide breadth of mechanical skill, and you also need to have the depth of the hero pool, you know, the diversity in the hero pool. So it's like, With 4, I mean, you can play several different types of 4s, and they all might function similarly. But with mids, it's like you're playing heroes that can be so vastly different that it's like you're almost learning a new playstyle within that playstyle when you're just learning some new heroes. So I'm not a very good mid. There's some heroes I excel at mid, and some I just absolutely can't seem to grasp. And I'm still, I don't know. I'm not a very greedy player either in ways, unless I'm like playing one and like I'm going to get every creep I can in the lane. But it takes a certain kind of mind to in that 1v1 fight than it does on the 2v2. So
yeah, it's about are you an aggressive player or not? Do you take the chance over the possibility of getting in a better position later on? And it's kind of something that, like, when I tweeted out about it, it kind of makes sense to me. When you're a support player, you get a certain mentality about like helping everyone else out, and that is to make the enemy player have a worse time in the game rather than helping yourself out or helping your players. Like, it's about saving them from time to time and like stacking for them to help, but in general, you're not really helping them farm. You can attack and help them get like a last hit by like timing your attacks correctly. That's one thing that you can do. And I would say that the players that are more about like saving people and not ganking like my style are probably better at that. So like, if you have a certain mentality, it's hard to like pull yourself out and move yourself into a different strategy. So like what I said was, you can take the player out of support, but you can't take the support out of the player.
Yeah, no joke.
And it's like that old reference, right? You can take I'm gonna get it all wrong because like I always do, but you can like take the guy out of the hood, but you can't take the hood out of him type thing. And it's like the same thing. It's like once you get a certain mentality, once you have a certain way of reacting in an environment, this is obviously a digital world, but when you are able to react in that scenario in a different way, it gets you, I don't know, it gets you in that mindset that's like, okay, I got to do this going into the game as a reactionary instead of as a thought process.
Right. And that's a very good way to put it, because as your position, I mean, I've heard you explain things several times in a very broken down process where it's like, I can pull, and then when they see the pull, I can go and gank mid or something. And it's like, with mid, you don't know. You know, it's a more reactionary position in the sense that, like, if that person is going to take the risk, you want to be damn sure, well, you can punish them for it. And if you can't, you know, you got to make sure that you're reacting correctly to not dying or something like that. So,
oh yeah,
wish you the best of luck. Did you play 4 in your qualies, open qualies?
I did not. In my open qualies, I played mid, and that's kind of the reason why I switched over. I kind of felt like I was outmatched a lot of the times, just because I wasn't doing like certain things that like mid players. It's funny. Mid players like have to have certain regiment ideas on like how you play the game and how you can take advantage of that lane to like the umpteenth percent, you know. Whereas like support, it's variable, and I can kind of like feel out the game and understand what needs to happen. It's not like set in stone. This is how you win the lane for everyone. And I feel like I'm better in a more fluid situation. Obviously, that's our dynamic right now. You lead me along. You're like, hey, Flubb, you got to talk about this, and I'm like, oh, okay, I can spit knowledge about that. I can do something with that, Wazoo. And you're like, oh, okay, all right, man. You're like the leader of my craziness. So.
Little do you know is I just sit here on Reddit and just go, yeah, okay, cool. And our show just keeps getting better. I don't know how. It's all you, man. But I think you're gonna have a lot of success there. I mean, I don't know. You seem like you definitely wanted to try it, but you seem like you're more a support oriented player. So it'll be cool to see how it goes. You cannot take the support out of the man. I like that, because it's like if you see someone about to die or something, your first reactionary thought process is, how do I help that guy, rather than how do I save my own skin, which you got to think of a lot as a mid. So I don't know. We'll watch your development, Flubster, and bring it up here and see how much better you get at support now that you're back, and it'll be interesting to see how your team jives, because that switching up, I mean, there's got to be some learning curve there for Ursi, and I know he's a very, very good player, just broke 5K, but it's like he's also put a ton of time into support in 5, so it'll be interesting to see how well he does. I know he's a good player. I know, like, he's someone who does a ton with a little bit of gold, you know, like playing in that broke style. And so we'll see how that transfers to the mid. But Hakuna Marana is a team that's had some success, and that's the team Flubb plays on with several other .p community members. It's a pretty cool time. You should go check out the practices and whatever they stream. Just a little pluggerino for you guys there. But moving on, it is a spooky, spooky day, like I said. Roshan is terrorizing my neighborhood, grabbing women like Godzilla. Creeps have flooded the streets in Halloween masks and such. Wait, no, those are just kids. That's good. Don't want to take their gold. But it's interesting because we've been having this discussion for the past couple days about when Dire Tide used to be a thing. And it feels like Valve, in the beginning, their philosophy was really oriented towards making engaging Halloween events. And of course, since not just Halloween events, but holiday events, rather. And something that is very interesting to me is just that they've kind of stopped that philosophy entirely and moved more towards these battle pass things. And don't get me wrong, you get the Halloween themed maps, but there used to be full events where it would be Dire Tide was a game type, or, you know, Frostivus was a game type, and you could queue in and you could win like cosmetics and stuff. And I remember this was back when chess dropped and you had to buy a key, a la Team Fortress 2, and you could grind these seasonal chests, much like Overwatch does, that you then unlock. And I don't know. I don't understand. In some ways I do understand, I guess, but in other ways I do not understand why they took this away from the community. Do you have any ideas on why, Flubb?
Well, I feel like the main reason that they did it was because not everyone enjoyed the events. I definitely did, and I wish that they were here. But I feel like the reason why they did away with all these different events was that Dire Tide was a really fun event that everyone played, but it didn't help your score. Which, I mean, obviously, Dota is a very competitive game. We all know this, and its competitiveness, we want to always be improving, always be doing something. And Dire Tide was kind of like a fun thing that you did off to the side, or Frostivus, or New Bloom. All those different games were really fun, but they didn't really help your score. Which...
New Bloom was only like a year ago, I feel like. You know?
It was, actually. New Bloom
like a year and a half ago?
Well, actually, it came out this year, technically, but it was part of the pass type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of interesting. That's when they started to make the transition, was this year with New Bloom.
They probably realized they could do a lot less work just with the compendium, keep it pro-oriented, but also get people involved and have a side game, because I'm sure they make a killing on those freaking compendium points and all that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So okay, let me break that down real fast, because it's what do they really gain by running a holiday event over selling a battle pass? I mean, they don't. Okay, they were I guess getting keys back then for a while, selling a ton of keys, but yeah. I'm sure they just saw that the price point was ineffective. The 250 price point, people were just screw it. And they realized they could get in for a lower price, and you can get people in for the lower compendium price or the higher one, and make it look like a better value, even though it's more expensive. But continue.
No, that's perfect. I feel like something that's fun, though, about them as well is that they include everyone in the game while being serious. You can play a PA and do the PA challenge, and that's really nice for people who want to stay serious but still have some fun going on. I remember there were and there probably still is today. I don't really watch the pros Twitch anymore. I just watch tournaments in general. But when I did watch them a year ago or two, they had this situation where they would go on a website and they would random the 6 items that they had to buy by the end of the game. And they would random the hero and then random the items. So it would be kind of like a challenge for themselves to beat the game with these like shitty items that like don't match their hero.
That's interesting.
And that's super fun, right? Like that's kind of what this event does, or what these, not events, but these passes do for us.
Yeah, they give you
us
parameters, and although they've gotten more general, you know,
yeah,
I feel like in a lot of ways, like there is that one tree that's super pointed that they released, the bonus tree that it's like get a miscoil on a Abaddon and stuff like that. Like not just one miscoil, but you know what I mean. So it's just interesting to kind of look where their philosophy's gone, because they want it general and inclusive, because I feel like people kind of complained. Because if you got to play Puck and get, I don't know, tons of damage with his silence or something, and Puck doesn't fit into the game, but you just are absolutely going to do that challenge, it kind of reduces the integrity of ranked while not benefiting anybody, because typically you don't win those games anyway. So now these more general challenges of deal the damage, buy the wards, etc., I feel like they're finally getting it to a point that it makes sense. But I still wish they would do... They were developing this character and color for the game with events like Dire Tide and New Bloom. It wasn't just Halloween. It wasn't just American Halloween that they were trying to go off here. Dire Tide was its very own event, and although it had a lot of parallels to Halloween, it was called Dire Tide, and it was something that took place in the Dota 2 universe. And something, I would dare say, the whole world felt included on, and correct me if I'm wrong on that, but when there wasn't a Dire Tide in, I don't know, 2014, I think, 2013, people threw up the tantrum, the likes of which you've never seen. And that is saying a lot for the Dota 2 community. I'm like saying, like, people were calling up Volvo, the car company, and like making death threats and stuff. It's like, Volvo, give Dire Tide, give Dire Tide. I'm sure you've seen that meme. And that's where that comes from, because Valve, in typical Valve fashion, didn't have any sort of communication with the community about it. They just decided not to do it one year. And this could open up a whole new slew of conversation about the direction of the game and how you can look at other games and how they're very active with their communities in terms of keeping them up to date on what the goals are. Whereas Valve is just kind of like, here's a roster lock. Now we're doing Boston Major. We don't need to tell anyone any shit, really. Like, we have like 100 employees, maybe less, And maybe it's about time they hire somebody on to handle that community relations, so things like that don't happen. Not that it's their fault, their community throws a temper tantrum, but it's like they create these things that are very stylized, and it feels like they just drop it. And it's just like, why? I don't understand. It's like you can do both, I feel like. And maybe what they're trying to do, like you said, is keep it very general for that world audience, and it's just fall, now it's just fall, and it's autumn, and like we're going to have an autumn map, and that's it, and we're going to release this battle pass to coincide with these majors, and that's where the game's going. But I still wish there was that casual novelty element you're describing, where you can just hop on, play a new game type with some friends, and then go play some competitive Dota.
Yeah, definitely. I also feel like the idea of having these events kind of gave the game more flavor, and they could kind of like do some interesting, funny, like background story stuff. Like add Dire Tide was like they kind of like got into Roshan's background a little bit more and kind of like fussed with it and like had a lot of like kind of little writing things. Same thing with Frost of Us and New Bloom. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the immersion into the game, because if there's one thing that Dota doesn't have, it's self-immersion. It's all about the competition, and as I do enjoy that, I do kind of miss out on, like, for instance, our main competitor, the game. I'm not saying I enjoy this game, but one thing that I can say that it does win over us is League of Legends has a super nice immersive environment that like talks about how the heroes came to be, like why they're here, and Dota has that, but it's nowhere near as expansive. And
it's left like intentionally vague, in a lot of ways, rather than being stylized and directed. You see like these little relations, like Lena and Crystal Maiden being siblings, and you see Vengeful Spirit and Skyrath had a fling back in the day, back in college, and it went weird somehow. or something. And like you don't get the full picture, but you get that there's relationships between these characters. And in typical Valve fashion, I mean, there's no communication there either. They're just like kind of figure it out. Whereas I think League and Riot wants to control that information and not let it get away from them. And it's just like, this is what this is. It's locked down in every way, whereas Dota's kind of open in every way. And it's, I don't know, it's a philosophy that goes down to the core. What does League do? What did Han do? What did games like that do for holidays, if you remember correctly?
Well, I remember, I'm trying to think back to Han, and they didn't really have any like good event games because it was all based around the game itself, and they didn't have the expansiveness. They're just like basically focusing on, okay, what can we do with this game? Whereas I think League of Legends, I think they have multiple different maps and stuff, so their maps actually change, not just like skin wise, but like actually like changing maps. Like that's when like different styles of games came out for them. And I think about thinking back to what they did for Han, they really didn't have anything but like skins and styles, which kind of what we're doing right now, right? Where we have like quests and quests to get like Halloween skins. So not only are you paying for it, but you have to like work for what you pay for, which is kind of weird. I don't really understand buying something and then like having to work to get those like special items. The reason why I get it is because I love the idea of like fantasy basketball, but in like Dota form. So like I'm hoping the battle pass gets like bigger and bigger on that section, and like the six of us can have like a in-house .p league, and we can say, oh man, I beat you this year, I beat you this season.
Yeah, that would be cool. They've done that kind of before with the player cards and everything, right? Because you could like construct a team back in the day, and that's something else that's interestingly enough fell by the wayside. And this is a lot of Valve projects, guys. Like, and believe me, I mean, I do a show, like a podcast for their games. Like, I love them, but at the same time, it's like there's so many things they just develop and drop. Look at the Steam machine. Look at the trading card thing. Look at all like the receipt, like not receipt things, but like coupon thing. Look at all this stuff that they just kind of like get involved in, and then they're just like, okay, and then they just walk away. And it's like, okay, like you're smart for the Steam machines thing because you got third parties to like front the money, but at the same time, it doesn't push the initiative forward when it comes to your games or your hardware. You got to make sure like you really sell it, which they haven't done. But back to like kind of the topic at hand. Do you remember the Year Beast?
Yeah.
Like that was another interesting take.
Was New Bloom,
yeah, it was
right?
New Bloom. But it was called the Year Beast, and it would spawn every little bit when you would queue, right? Do you remember how that works exactly?
Oh God, yeah. It was like they would spawn down. Was it like would they just like go down the lane? Was it? No. I see. Yeah, the one I remember is the one that there you had to like have 5 and kill the Year Beast. Then you had to like go up through the levels of it. And it was kind of like a try to kill the monster but stay alive at the same time. And it was like doing like a raid boss.
So every 5 minutes, the Year Beast would spawn and just come down a lane. So you'd just be in the lane and like a dragon, like a Hanzo ult would come at you pretty much. And,
and then you could like upgrade it, right?
You could upgrade it and stuff with gold, and it was in all pick. Like I don't know if it was in ranked or anything. I think it was just its own game type, but it was just all pick ranked or just all pick, not ranked. Sorry, and that's another thing where it's like they've moved away from that philosophy, where Dota can be something weird and kind of dumb, I guess. I think it's cool and dumb at the same time, but that's how I feel about a lot of things in Dota sometimes. But the idea is cool, but like in execution, it was all right. You know what I mean? Like it distracted from the game, and like in fact, like there's a random roll there. Like if it doesn't come down your lane, it's like it's only hurting one lane, and that guy was just like screwed by the luck of the draw if the enemies rotate and like take advantage of it. You know what I mean? So it's like there's one element that I find it cool because it's innovative, and there's another element where I kind of get where they're coming at because it's like you could spend all this time playtesting these holiday events and making sure everything's smooth, or you could just move on to a new, more sustainable idea.
Yeah. I do think that they're missing out on a way to bring in like new things to the game that they're wanting to introduce, though. Whether that's like adding a new hero for like a little bit, and like it doesn't even have to be a new hero. It can be a new play game, a new like map, a new thing that you have to deal with, like the year beast. And there's plenty of things that you could do that I feel like they're missing like an opportunity, instead of just like saying, okay, here's some more skins for you guys to spend money on and to, to like make your guy look cooler, which is really important for a lot of people. And
not at all for me,
Sometimes I even get swept up in it.
Like, I have items that are worth hundreds of dollars that have been gifted to me by friends and other people, but it's like, that's just cool to me because that person gave it to me. You know what I mean? It's not something I'd ever go seek out. But what I think, but I wish what they would do to keep the integrity up with these ideas is default map changes for free. You can now have just a Halloween-oriented map, and then in winter it'll switch to a Christmas or snow theme map, and then in the spring you get the spring theme map, and then like the desert map or whatever for summer. And these would coincide with the battle cups and the international and stuff, so you could tie it all in there. I also think you should switch the default skin on every hero, and this is probably easier said than done and wishful thinking. But what if everyone like suddenly default had a more holiday or season oriented skin? And so it's like these characters are changing and being stylized in that way Valve likes, but without explaining all the little details, and it's just kind of there in the game for everybody to enjoy. And then you could buy a battle pass and, of course, get an upgraded version of the map that looks better, and then have all those skins as well. It is an interesting concept that you brought up with the battle pass of like buying the ticket. It's like paying to go into a movie, and like you walk in and like there's all these like jazzer cycles, and they're like, you got to pedal to watch this movie. And I'm talking hard, or the movie's going to cut out. Like, you can't enjoy it. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a bad analogy, but it's like, it's so weird that someone can like sell you something and they're like, okay, buddy, now it's, now you got to work real hard for it. And I think it's for that psychology. The psychology is this, that they want you to think it's more worth it just to buy the leveled up compendium past the basic one. And if they don't create that value of like, you can either pay this and like your foot's in the door, or you can pay this and you're a ways ahead of everybody else and you're going to start with more stuff.
Yeah, it's true. It's kind of, and I understand that it like helps them along and whatever to keep my game up and running without having to like force me to pay is pretty much fine with me, as long as no one's getting an advantage ahead of time. I just feel like, and I think you feel the same way, Wazoo, is that whenever we look at these games, these stylistic things that come out, it's like, oh man, you had so much potential, but you're there just to like have a skin instead of introduce something new to the game.
And I'm sorry to say, it's kind of bland. Like, it's like, if you're gonna, why not just have like the Dire Tide event and have a Christmas event every year and just be like, this is our thanks to our fans, that keep us ticking. Because like that stylization and like the little cool drawings and stuff that come out, and like the little Smeevils and whatever they're called and stuff, like with candy, is like, it's just cool. I mean, and if you can look at a big example, and I want to avoid making this comparison too much, but Overwatch, they've completely nailed that. And they do the same thing Valve does with the skins. However, theirs is more playtime, or you just buy the chests. You know what I mean? Like, they want you to realize it does take work to get there as well, to get those skins, or you can just mass buy a bunch of chests, like our friend Blackheart Nancy. She got the Mercy Witch skin, and like it cost her quite a few chests. But it's like, if you want it, it's there and it's feasible, like money wise, because they don't cost that much. And you can still do that and get it, but they're not so interested in nickel and diming you, I think. And the holiday events are just a great example of someone doing it right. They did the Olympics, which is, at first I was like, oh, that's kind of dumb. And then I like looked at it and I was like, that is actually really cool. It's an all-inclusive world event. They have world players all over the world, like they have everything from like everyone's playing this game. And so to have that inclusive thing with a cast that's multinational. And, I mean, they don't develop their characters very much. I mean, sure, that could change. But I just feel like that's an example of someone doing the holidays correctly. And they have a Halloween event currently that I think ends today. And with that comes interesting Halloween themed skins and stuff, just like we do, but it's more blatant. Whereas Dota has always had like one foot in the door, and they didn't want to dedicate themselves too much to this Western holiday structure. But I feel like they were kind of making their own thing, and then to see it kind of given up is, I don't know, it's a letdown in ways.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is like, I understand that you don't want to like hurt other cultures and not advertise towards them, but people are excited just to see something new in general in games. And as long as it's not like offensive to their culture, and I hope I'm not offending anyone by saying any of this, but as long as it's not offensive to your culture, then you're going to enjoy that new content, that new stylistic, even if it's like not around you right now, then that's fine. Like I had games like Guild Wars was my example, that like they had like certain events happen in Guild Wars that were like from other cultures that were not like an Americanized culture. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. All this stuff changed, and like I'm super excited to collect things. And if anything, it helps me learn about other cultures.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Man, I'd love to see like a Chinese New Year Valve event.
That would be awesome.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't care. I'm not going to get on and be like, my dotes. Like, if I don't like it, I won't play the game type. And if I don't like it, like, I wouldn't be playing a multinational game like Dota 2 if I didn't like other cultures, like, truth be told. I wouldn't be going and spending money to go to the international and, like, hang out with everybody over this thing the world loves. Like, you know, we got to realize gaming is a world thing now. It's not just a Western thing. It never really has been. But at the same time, we can still foster that difference in culture in an interesting way. And who's to say the Peruvian player or the Chinese player doesn't think it's cool to log on and, like, go do an Americanized Halloween event, even though maybe they don't have the same type of holiday in their own culture. It's like they know what it is. People have the internet. You know, I know some about many different cultures' holidays, but like to be able to participate in that and not have it like explicitly called Halloween, but Dire Tide, I feel like they were like hitting the nail on the head with that, and then they just kind of let it go. And you can relaunch the same game type, right? Like, why couldn't they just relaunch the same thing and Dire Tide 2016? It's like, hi guys, we're getting ready to ramp up to the Boston Major. We've decided to release this game type that we've now ported into Source 2 because it hasn't been here. Enjoy. Valve. You know what I mean? Like, it might be a bit buggy, you know? Like, send all complaints to no one will read this at valve.com. And that's kind of a joke because Gabe Newell does read his emails. I've seen tons of things where people are just like, are you a real man? And he's like, of course, my son. You know, like, I don't know. But it's almost like there was a distinct shift in philosophy at some point where they went from, okay, this is our thing, we can do literally whatever we want, to we can do less work doing this and make more money, and therefore this is the path we should take. And of course they are a business. I'm not like saying everything should be out of charity and the game is free to play, but I mean, they're pulling in money between compendium points and their store they run and every cut they take off the market transactions and everything else. I mean, they're making a grip off the game. Like, there's no joke about that. You know what I mean? Like, just with the international alone, I mean, how much of that prize money goes to Valve? You know, it's pretty staggering. And I mean, they put on good events for us, but I'd like to see a more delicate refocus on the casual player. That isn't so much just go play custom games, because I know there's some people out there that are listening right now. They're just like, well, someone could make that custom game, and Valve kind of put those tools in the hands of the community so they could make their own Dire Tide or something. But it's not quite the same to like have that sense of community and involvement with everybody based upon a video game's holiday. You know what I mean? And it sounds kind of cheesy, but what I mean by that is like when you log into a Dire Tide or a Frostivus or something, you feel what's going on in your current culture. You feel like it's Christmas or Halloween or whatever, but at the same time, it's like you're sharing it with all those people that you really, really love playing this game with. And so it's that sense of community that I don't know if the pro scene necessarily provides, because it's all based upon skill more so than like a love for the game.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like, um, at a certain time, like all of us who stay online and stay connected with people, they're your friends. They can even be sometimes as close as your family. And when you're when you're with those types of people, you want to experience, have like cultural experiences or things that like would delve you deeper into personality, and you can talk about different things and kind of like it keeps you in that mindset instead of the same, you know, type of mindset that always is pushed out on us. And we love this game, and it's never going to that love is never going to like really diminish as much as because we're like such diehard fans of Dota. But as time goes on, like it does kind of grate on you when it's just like the same login thing. There's nothing new. There's nothing exciting.
I'm gonna leave Dota for a slimmer, younger Overwatch because I'm just fed up with the shit. No, I'm joking. I'll never leave Dota. I love her too much. But you're making a good point, man. And that's that the game is more of it's a social tool, you know. And so like to switch up how you talk to people or how you relate can show people things in different light. I know it's no secret around that I sometimes find myself in the clink, as it were, in low priority. And with that Frostivus event, there was actually it was counting those game types as low prio games back in the day. It used to be like you'd get a week ban and you'd just be gone for a week and then be like, don't come back. And you're like, man, and like just go like cool it for a week and come back. But now now of course it's games, and right when it launched as games, like it was that Frostivus event, and you could go and run the Wraith King. I believe he was Skeleton King becoming Wraith King. You could go and run those games really, really quick and just lose. You didn't even have to win. It was just games. And so you just go through those games real fast and get it. And so maybe that's why I miss it. But I remember having a great time in some of those games with like, not just like people of my own culture, but people who absolutely didn't speak any English, and just having a blast because it's a new twist on something you love. It takes the edge off a little bit. There's not so much of that serious nature. It's more of a nod to the casual player, which, I feel like, to reiterate, has kind of been lost as we continue to go on. Everything's getting more and more pro-centric. And not to say these guys aren't crazy talented, like they are, but at the same time, like, if I enjoy soccer or something, like, and I like to go kick a ball at the park, I don't want to, like, constantly be comparing myself to, Italian footballers or something. Like, I like to enjoy them, to watch them for their skill, but at the same time, if I'm like a player of the game, I don't really compare myself to anybody but myself. And it used to be, I guess, a little more lax, a little more tongue-in-cheek when it came to how the casual player was treated or even catered to,
Yeah, definitely. And the thing is like they kind of do that right now. They're kind of going into that with like the stun bars and things like that. Like they're ward boxing, things that are making the game easier for people to be better at the game quicker,
or at least not be punished by something that you can't see or define.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's not really a new player's fault that like I throw a Sven stun and they're lying and they stack the stun a little bit and he ends up getting away, because there's nothing in the game to explain that to that point. So you just got to do it a bunch of times and while your team yells at you and you're just like, what am I doing? And then you do it. You know what I mean? I didn't know the ward spawn boxes until those came up, to be honest. Like, I'd block myself all the time. I'd be like, it's not there, is it? Dink. And then it wouldn't spawn. It's like, idiot, report, fucking lion. And it's like, I didn't even know, man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I don't know where the boxes are. Like, I would look at that map all the time. There was a cool map going around that just showed all the spawn boxes. Have you ever seen that image?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like it would show ward spots and stuff too. So it's like I would just go through and like try to look at it, but you'd still forget in the heat of the moment. Now I can just hold down Alt and there it is. You know what I mean? And that's fair. It's more fair that way. And I think as they're moving things away from being random generation, I mean, you saw this with the change in the runes too. Like, what happens early on if you like are just a certain hero and you run down and get a haste rune at minute 2? Like, you can run and just get a kill. You know what I mean? Just because that randomly spawned there. And now you see that a little less with the balance on either side. Because if you go for the kill, someone from the other lane can come grab a bounty. And, like, you're making that up a little bit. And, Yeah, I definitely get what you're putting down there. They are making the game more accessible, and we'll see. We'll see where the design philosophy goes, because there's a lot of pros and I guess pro pundits that kind of feel like it's dumbed down, that they're making the game too accessible, that they're not really going the right direction with it. But that's definitely, I mean, we've discussed accessibility on this show before. I don't think that's really something we got to go into, but I mean, this has been an interesting recap of those like the holiday events and Dire Tide and all that. Do you have anything else to add before we move on to our item of the week?
I just want to say that, like, I feel like if we make these, like, there is the opportunity to make them in custom games, right? Like, we have the ability, and that's like part of the reason why Valve probably isn't trying to do it anymore. But there's a difference there's a difference between having something like customly made and something professionally made. And it's fun to like play these custom games that are kind of enjoyable, that aren't exactly fleshed out, because I mean that's getting back to the roots of what Dota is.
Many of them are still broken too. Let's not forget. Like Valve will change something and it'll just break everybody's game, and they'll just like, well, whatever. Like we'll not update it anymore, because like once it gets patched, we're screwed, kind of thing. And that's another thing where I feel like they put it out there, they get it all done, and then it's just like, handle it. You know, like ability draft is still broken too, I hear, like in a lot of ways. So it's like there's these things that are cool that are there to fill that outlet, but they're not necessarily working all the way. So
yeah, and it's because, you know, we are such a competitive group, but I feel like we're such a competitive group because this game has now been flushed out over the ridiculous long time that it has been around. And like, we still complain about things being underpowered, things like that are at a point where it gets crazy to talk about how minuscule the differences are between the heroes. And like, even then, like, some are better and they are overpowered in certain scenarios because you can't get it perfect, and it's still working on it. But a lot of these things are introduced like recently, and then people don't want to play them because they get a taste of like, okay, this is overpowered, and we don't want to play this because there is something overpowered within this game type. And then they stop playing it, and then they go back to regular Dota. And if they just like gave it some time and like worked on these games, people would be really excited for them. And I think it would like put in a new subculture within Dota that's, I feel it needed.
Yeah. And with that being said, you know, I mean, it's going to get better. Like, I was highly critical of the Source 2 launch, and because a lot was broken, a lot didn't work. A lot of the promises they made didn't seem like they were going to come to fruition, but they have. So, you know, their philosophy is getting better. I mean, we have to remember that the game's going to have stages, and they're going to focus on different things. And right now, it's the whole majors and all of that. It's huge. So, but moving on, we are going to discuss our item of the week. We had a poll put up, and you guys voted to hear about the butterfly. And this is an item I don't build that much, so it'll be like a primer and education for me. Flubb, do you want to kick us off and give us a few details about the item?
Okay, so obviously this is like one of the best items for the agility carry. It is an agility person in general. Anyone that's a mid can pick it up. But its main purpose is for agility carries to keep them alive, to do a lot of damage at the same time, and also give them like some movement speed to get to like camps, help them farm a little bit. It's not primary purpose is not for that, but it's still better than some of the other alternatives that exist out there.
So you're just spamming Flutter between camps, kind of, and just running in there and using it.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really spam it because it has a 25-second cooldown, but it is a way that a lot of people will use that item, and they don't really understand the purpose of what Flutter bonus really is for. And it's about like getting to your easy situations very fastly, because you're not going to get the evasion when you have that, because it like takes away the evasion whenever you use it for those like minuscule seconds. But it's still important to remember that that's the purpose of the item, is that it is designed to give you 35% evasion, which is crazy.
Yep, that is very good, and that's just a straight percentage. Little bit of details on the item. Butterfly. Only the mightiest and most experienced of warriors can wield the butterfly, but it provides incredible dexterity in combat. Cost 5,775, which makes it one of those late game expensive items. You need the Eagle Song, which in itself is huge agility, the Talisman of Evasion, and an Oblivion Staff. So it's a good item. Like, obviously, I think you need to know when to build it for max effectiveness. I think I see a lot of people like build it, and like there'll be a natural MKB carrier on the other team or something, and then it just like doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't go off like they thought it would. So there's always that list of choices you can make, and if you see people that are carrying that, you probably don't want to pick it up, right? Or there are times where you would anyway.
Well, if you see people carrying it, you definitely, I mean, you go MKB, like, you have to. And that's kind of the thing, is it forces people into certain builds when you pick it up. I do agree with you. If there's a natural carrier for it, then you don't necessarily want to do that. But the real strength of it is having the ability to force people to go down a certain path when you're ahead. If you can get that bonus on that butterfly before they can get the MKB, then it's even more crucial, and you can use that to your advantage when you're like pushing high ground, for instance.
So if you hit the timing correctly, it shouldn't matter that much, because like by the time they react, you can turn it into some type of advantage.
Well, if you're ahead of them, like you want to force them to not have very many items and then have to build the MKB, because there's no way to get around it. And if they build an early MKB, then they're just a squishy pile of mess, because the MKB is just straight damage, and your teammates can hopefully focus that person out while you kill everyone else.
That is pretty cool. Is this ever an item you really want to build when you're behind, though?
I would almost say no, because like if you're behind, then they're probably saving up for buybacks, and they have a lot of disposable income. So then they can like make a decision on where they're gonna go. And if you see that someone is building towards butterfly, I mean, it's pretty obvious, inventory wise. You can either go, like, if you get the Eagle Song first, you can only go Ethereal Blade or Butterfly. And certain heroes, Ethereal Blade just sucks on, so it's kind of like a red flag. Or, I mean, obviously, if you get the evasion piece, like, that you're only going Butterfly. That's like,
if you're in the carry position, it's like your odds are you're not doing anything else.
Right. Well, I mean, people could make the argument that you could go Heaven's Halberd, but Heaven's Halberd right now is just very, very situational item. It is, it needs a buff, definitely. So it's a very clear sign if you are starting to build it, and people will build against you for that. And they will also, if they have that advantage with money, they can say, okay, well, I can instead not have buyback in this one scenario to completely shut out this person, or I can have buyback and work against it. And that's the trade-off, right? But the thing is like you're not really forcing them out of a situation they're uncomfortable with in that scenario. So I personally, I think that it's a when you're a head item, or when you're in a state that you've seen someone buy an item recently that's pretty expensive, it's decent to start to go into that if you have some leftover cash laying around as well for your buyback.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's an item I haven't built a lot, and just looking into it, like it's one of those items that you just need to know the situation, and once you know the situation, it feels like it can benefit you greatly. But what heroes would you build on it? I see it like picked up on PA and stuff at my skill level, and it's like, ugh. Because they're probably going to go the MKB anyway, so it's like double their value for your stupid choice.
Yeah, I would never go that on her, unless like you're facing just people who don't understand what MKB does.
And like armlet PAs and stuff. It's good times. But what other heroes do you see it built on a lot? I like see it on Anti quite a bit sometimes, like when he just needs to not get blown up, Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Like it's not like when he needs to get blown up. It's like when they have other melee carries, or they have other carries, right click carries that can't really build MKB or are like really far behind that can't build a MKB. So like anti-mage is good. Classic one is always Luna. Giving her that extra movement speed when she's already like super fast is awesome. Also, just she's a natural illusion carrier, and it's nice to give that miss percentage versus illusions. So that's also something that's kind of important to have with the characters that you're looking for. It's interesting that a lot of the heroes have kind of like found different paths. You used to see it on Razor sometimes. That's very situational now. I would almost go say like it's not useful anymore. Gyro is another one that.
Yeah, that's a classic one. You see that when Gyro was like first pick, first ban, you always like saw that. I mean, it was still situational, but it was something that you built to. So this should give you some food for thought for what kind of heroes pick it up. I mean, it's heroes that benefit from the mobility and also benefit from not getting straight blown the hell up, So with that being said, do you have anything else to add before we truck on to the last segment of the show?
I think that's it, man.
Okay, we are going to do another poll. As for the items, what do you think, man? We've been doing quite a bit. I'd like to do like Glimmer Cape, or I'll add Glimmer Cape in for one. We could do Force Staff or Blink. Glimmer, Force Staff, or Blink.
I like it because all those items are very situational and they kind of all go together. So whichever one someone picks, I will focus my conversation on that for sure. We can focus on the conversation, but they all have uses in that scenario that are similar. So
mobility is very important in the game of Dota 2. So we are going to like kind of explore that in the items next week and work on a concept probably surrounding that. But so get involved in the polls, and we love doing that with you guys. Love talking to you whenever we can on Twitter. So you can reach me at .pshow, and Flubb, where can people reach you?
They can reach me at Flubb Dota with 2 B's, and come and check me out. I don't announce a lot, but it's good to follow people and understand, because I'm going to be tweeting more about things that I'm going to be doing in the future. Hopefully, I'm going to start trying to get things set up where I'm going to do some. I actually talked about it a couple months ago, about getting like a sniper article up. And I think I'm going to set a challenge. I'm going to say it now online so I can't get out of it. One per month. I'm going to do a hero that I like to do, or a hero that, that people are asking me for. Send me a tweet out and try to get information on whatever hero you guys would like me to talk about. And I generally have weird styles for every hero. So that once again, that is at Flubb Dota with 2 B's.
That is spooky, freaky stuff. A correction. You can reach the whole show at .p__show. Went into Sean Connery mode for a second there. You can reach me at .p_wazoo. And check out our YouTube. Fafnir right now has been doing a lot of YouTube reviews, and I know some other people among the community will be doing YouTube reviews of others. So check that out at .ptv1 on YouTube. Come check out our in-houses on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern. Those are hosted by Grouty. And his Twitter, if you ever have any questions and or complaints, you can lobby them to at Grouty Dota. I always send all my complaints to him. But I snail mail him. I'll like write a book about my complaints and just send them right to Grouty and be like, immediately read now. It's like, I woke up too early today, and like that's where it starts, and it just keeps going. But come check out our Twitch. People just sometimes tune into the in-houses and hang out in there as well. And I know people are always streaming, so that is at .ptv. As for that, I think those are all my plugs. Okay, everybody, so thank you so much for joining us today at .p's Tryhard Tuesdays. Check out our other shows. We have the Wednesday Roundtable coming up, and, of course, Theorycraft Thursdays and Proudlands on Fridays. Very much appreciate your support, and remember, guys, stay hard and stay classy.